The Cellar. Welcome to another collection of horrible fates. As always, I like to be upfront that this is a collection of stories I've already told on the channel. Some of you wait and prefer to watch these larger collections, and they tend to be the most popular videos on the channel. I just want to make sure anyone watching understands what these collections are. So thank you all for watching and supporting the channel, and if you enjoy the video, please consider subscribing and hit that like button below. It helps a ton. And without further ado, let's dive into this collection of horrible fates. This first story takes us to Saltville, Virginia. Saltville is a town in Smith and Washington counties in the U.S. state of Virginia. The population of the town was around 1,824 at the time of the 2020 census. It was Tuesday, November 28, 2023. An unidentified group of workers had gone to work bright and early that morning. They would soon arrive at one of the homes they had been hired to do some tree trimming at. From all reports, the morning went as planned, as they worked on cutting down trees and grinding them up within their wood chipper. As the day continued on, lunchtime was soon closing in. It was around 11 a.m., and one of the men on the crew was in the process of feeding more pieces of the trimmed down tree into the wood chipper. As he did, fate would ultimately strike. Now, it's not clear exactly how it happened, but as the man fed a portion of the tree in, he would end up going in with the tree, head first. Now, if any of you have ever seen the movie Fargo, then you know what kind of damage a wood chipper can do to a human body. Sadly, this man stood little chance the moment he went head first into the grinding machinery. In further researching this story, I stumbled onto some far more grisly information in regards to wood chipper accidents. According to the CDC, between the year 1992 to 2002, 31 people lost their lives within the United States in wood chipper related incidents. Of those 31 people, all of them were male, with an average age of around 35. 42% of the men were groundskeepers and 16% were machine operators. To further show how dangerous these machines are, there's a yearly average of 204 wood chipper related non-fatal accidents. That ultimately means that 204 people, on average a year, suffer non-fatal injuries, while around 3.1 people succumb to such a grisly end every year. So whatever you do, be extremely cautious around these machines, as one slip-up will have you meeting your maker almost instantly. For many, the Disney parks are supposed to be one of the happiest places on Earth. A place where people of all ages can go and enjoy the magic within the park's gates. But as we've touched on in the past, it's not always a fairy tale adventure for those that dare participate in the park's many rides and activities. One such story involves the America Sings attraction. America Sings opened on June 29, 1974. It replaced the General Electric-sponsored Tomorrowland attraction, Carousel of Progress, which had been moved to the Magic Kingdom at the Walt Disney World Resort in 1973. America Sings would use the same exact carousel theater as its predecessor. The building had an outer ring of 6 theaters which were connected by divider walls. These walls revolved mechanically about every 4 minutes around the 6 fixed stages that were located in the center of the building. America Sings featured a cast of singing audio animatronic animals, with the songs being primarily written by Mark Davis and Al Bertino. The show's master of ceremonies were performed by an American bald eagle named Sam and an owl. Like its predecessor, the Carousel of Progress, the first and last scenes of America Sings involved the loading and unloading of guests, while the other 4 scenes depicted a particular era. The curtains would open to reveal Sam and the owl standing on a 2-level podium, with Sam standing on the higher level, introducing or closing out the show. Between each act, as the theater rotated, the lights would black out, and the theater would then illuminate with flashing stars. During these rotations, Sam the Eagle would sing about the next era the audience was about to enter. One of the people that worked at the America Sings attraction was Deborah Gale Stone. Deborah Gale Stone was born in Santa Ana, California on June 18, 1956. She was her parents' first child, and growing up, she was friendly, popular, and excelled in both sports and academics. She absolutely loved track and swimming in particular, and it seemed like whatever she put her mind to, she would end up successful at. Following her graduation of high school, Deborah enrolled at Iowa State University. Knowing how expensive it was going to be for her to attend school there, she would soon apply for a summer job as a Disneyland hostess. She secured that coveted position, and in the summer of 1974, she was off to work what was a dream job for a young college student. One of Debbie's assignments that summer was at the America Sings attraction. As a hostess, her job was to greet each new audience member as they settled into their seating areas. Debbie would stand to the left of the stage as she welcomed guests over a microphone. She would do this before the outer ring rotated and carried the guests to the first scene of the carousel. It was 9 days into the attraction on July 8, 1974. Debbie was working at the America Sings attraction, and around 11 p.m. that evening, another audience was enjoying the theatrics. As the audience was enjoying the show, a blood-curdling scream would ring through the area, seemingly out of nowhere, leaving many guests unsure if it was part of the experience or not. Those working the attraction would soon rush to where they heard the screaming. There they found a grisly scene. Deborah's body was crushed between the walls of the theater. Now, it's never been clear exactly why this tragic event occurred. Some believe Debbie may have tripped or taken a step backwards, but whatever the case was, Debbie got too close to the area between the rotating theater wall and the non-moving stage wall. As the walls came together, Debbie was instantly trapped and crushed, ultimately leading to an ending that Debbie simply didn't deserve. Following the tragic accident, the attraction was closed down. It would remain that way while Disney installed warning lights. Later, the walls in the theater were completely remodeled so that they would break away in case a similar incident was to ever happen again. I have seen some differing reports on how long the ride was closed, but it appears it was only down for 3 days following the incident. Following the tragic set of events, Debbie's family would later sue Disney for the incident, and from all reports, Debbie's family received an undisclosed settlement. No matter how you look at it, what happened on the night of July 8, 1974 was a pure tragedy. Deborah was a smart, kind, and caring young woman who had a positive impact on so many. My sincere condolences go out to her family and friends, for no parent should ever have to outlive their child. For this next story, we're going to touch on one of the most horrifying devices ever made. This device was designed in ancient Greece, and it not only ended lives, it ended them in one of the most terrifyingly painful ways. The Brazen Bull was allegedly created by Perillus of Athens, a bronze worker in the 6th century BCE. Following its creation, Perillus introduced the device to Phalaris, the tyrant of Acragas, a Greek city located in Sicily. The tyrant Phalaris was well known for his pure savagery and cruelty. He ruled Acragas in fear from 570 to 554 BCE. According to history, Phalaris requested a device that would make executions a public spectacle. He wanted to use the device to instill fear and obedience within the people who lived under his rule. The device's design was said to be a master stroke of ancient artisanship, a life-sized bull cast entirely in bronze, with a door on the side for the victim to be placed inside. The bowl was hollow, allowing enough room for a human being to be crammed in. Ultimately, the device itself was designed with the idea of placing a victim within and then lighting a fire underneath. When a fire was lit beneath it, the bronze bowl would heat up, slowly roasting the person inside. The Brazen Bull also had an acoustic apparatus. This apparatus would turn the victim's screams into the sounds of a bellowing bull for those on the outside to hear. The mouth of the bull was engineered in such a way that it served as a sort of resonating system. As the person within would cook, their agonizing screams were transformed into the bellowing of an infuriated bull. This provided a grimly ironic spectacle for those in attendance. Following the presentation of the bull to the tyrant, Phalaris, it is said that the tyrant's cruel sense of irony was soon brought to light, as he supposedly forced the creator, Perillus, into the bull. It's been said that Perillus, when presenting the bull, made a comment about how the screaming victims would sound like a bellowing bull. This ultimately intrigued Phalaris immensely, leading to his order for Perillus to climb inside the bull and demonstrate its capabilities. Once Perillus was within the bull, Phalaris locked the door and had a fire lit underneath, ultimately roasting the device's creator inside. This would make Perillus, the man who designed the bull himself, the very first victim of its horrible cruelty. At the end of the day, historians have debated for decades the authenticity of the bull, with some arguing that the device may be more legend than reality, a horrifying story that has been embellished over the centuries. Whether the device was real or not, it displays the unending depths of human cruelty and how far some will go when using terror as a tool for maintaining their power over the masses. The idea of being locked away in such a device is that of absolute nightmares. This next story takes place at the University of the South. The University of the South, also known as Sewanee, is a private college in Sewanee, Tennessee. The college is owned by 28 Southern Dioceses of the Episcopal Church, and its School of Theology is an official seminary of the church. The university's School of Letters offers graduate degrees in American literature and creative writing. The campus, otherwise known as the Domain or the Mountain, consists of 13,000 acres of scenic mountain property atop the Cumberland Plateau, with the developed portion occupying about 1,000 acres. It was 1:30 a.m. on October 11, 2001. A 19-year-old freshman at the school named Wesley C. Mitchell of Manchester Center, Vermont, was with a group of friends who decided to sneak into the Templeton Library. The library itself is located not far from the college campus. Now, according to the limited reports on this story, the library at the time was closed, but somehow Wesley and his friends managed to get inside the building. Why they were there, or what their plans were that night, have never been made clear. I tried to dig deeper into this story, but there's simply very little that has ever been reported on it. Following their entry into the library, the boys would locate what they believed, at the time, to be a laundry chute. After finding this laundry chute, Wesley made a decision to climb in and slide down into the laundry below. What he didn't realize at the time was that this was no simple laundry chute. Wesley would soon slide down into the dark depths below. As he passed a certain point, a sensor was triggered on the machinery that Wesley had just entered into. That sensor was designed to activate the trash compactor. Within mere moments, and no chance of escape, Wesley was crushed by the machine. Luckily at the time, none of the other students Wesley was with had followed him down. And according to police, the other boys were quick to fear for Wesley's safety, and they soon notified the police department. But by the time they got there, it was simply too late. Why did Wesley go down the chute? Was he dared to? All questions we don't have answers to. Ultimately, the police reported that foul play was not apparent in this horrible tragedy. My condolences go out to Wesley and all of his family and friends. This first story takes us to Tacoma, Washington, on July 27, 2018. Tacoma is known as a port city that is located 32 miles or 51 kilometers southwest of Seattle. The city's population is around 219,000 residents, making Tacoma the third most populous city in the state. Now, for this story, you will need to know what dry ice is and how it works. Dry ice is basically the solid form of carbon dioxide, and it is primarily used as a cooling agent. The benefits of dry ice is that it has a lower temperature in comparison to water ice. As regular ice warms, it melts, whereas dry ice has the advantage of not leaving any residue other than incidental frost from moisture within the atmosphere. Dry ice is extremely useful for preserving frozen foods when mechanical cooling is not available. A block of dry ice has a surface temperature of -109.3 degrees Fahrenheit or 78.5 degrees Celsius. This first story involves a man who was running a business delivering Dipin Dots ice cream. For those of you that don't remember or simply don't know what Dipin Dots is, Dipin Dots is an ice cream snack that was invented by Kurt Jones back in 1988. The treat is created by flash freezing ice cream mix in liquid nitrogen, giving the frozen treat its unique and original look. It was Thursday evening, and the man was at home with his wife and his mother. At some point that evening, the man's wife ended up volunteering to drive her mother-in-law home. The man's wife climbed into his car and soon drove off. From all reports, it was around 11 p.m. when the pair set off. The man would eventually settle into bed, expecting his wife to return in due time. He eventually dozed off, not waking again until early the following morning. When he woke, he immediately came to a realization that his wife had never come home. Alarmed, he quickly dressed and was soon heading out his front door. He would begin walking in the direction that his wife would have driven the night before, and it would only take him 2 blocks to discover his car parked on the side of the road. He ran up to the car and found his wife and mother unconscious within the vehicle. He attempted to open a door to the vehicle, but the car was still locked. The man was swift and concise as he made the decision to grab a rock and smash out one of the car's windows. He would then quickly drag his wife and then his mother out of the vehicle. He proceeded to call 911 and began the painstakingly long wait for an ambulance to finally arrive. His wife would be taken to the hospital, where she was found to still be alive, but in critical condition. As for his mother, she sadly had succumbed to her fate. Which leads to the question, what happened? Well, as I stated before, the man delivered Dipin Dots for a living. In the backseat of his car, he had 4 coolers full of dry ice and product. It happened to have been very warm that day, and dry ice turns into a gas when it heats up. The gas itself is invisible and completely odorless. In a small enclosed space like a car, the gas will slowly take the place of the oxygen, making it eventually impossible to breathe. As the man's wife and mother climbed into the car, they had no idea how much carbon dioxide had already filled the small vehicle. They closed the doors and began driving, and within mere moments they both lost consciousness. It's honestly a miracle that the man's wife survived, but his 77-year-old mother was not so lucky. In my research of this story, I found another interesting close call with dry ice that I wanted to share with you all. It involves Justin Wolverton, the founder of Halo Top Creamery. A few months before he founded the very well-known ice cream company, he was driving through Los Angeles with around 40 pints of ice cream in his back seat. As he was driving, he started to struggle with his breathing. He began hyperventilating, and as he pulled up to a stoplight, he spotted an ambulance in the next lane. He would begin gesturing the driver, and the paramedics would get out to help him. As Justin exited his car, he immediately started to recover. At the time, he had no idea what the issue was, but in reality, all he needed was fresh air. The same situation in the first story we discussed had happened. The dry ice had begun warming up, creating toxic carbon dioxide fumes, and if he had not exited the car when he did, his fate may have been sealed. There are numerous stories of dry ice causing life-threatening situations, so please, let this be a warning to all that use it. Be careful, and store safely and in a well-ventilated area. "16-year-old Kyle Plush was an Ohio native who attended the Seven Hills School located in Cincinnati, Ohio. Kyle was a member of the Seven Hills tennis team. It was April 10, 2018. Kyle Plush had a tennis match that afternoon at his school. He would hop into his 2004 Honda Odyssey minivan and drive down to the school's parking lot. It was a little after 3 o'clock in the afternoon when Kyle parked his vehicle within the lot. Kyle would remove his seatbelt and climb back to the third row seat. At the time, he had his tennis gear in the rear well. Now, in order to paint a full picture of what occurred, I found video that shows precisely what happened. Kyle, with his knees on the third row seating, would lean over the back of the seat and reach down into the rear well in order to grab his gear. As he was doing this, the seat itself would flip, sending Kyle headfirst into the rear well. This forced Kyle into a position where he was upside down and completely stuck, completely unable to move or free himself from the precarious situation he was now in. Even at only 16 years of age, Kyle courageously tried to keep a level head and find a solution to free himself. That now takes us to 3:14 p.m., when the first 911 call came into dispatchers. "Help, I'm stuck in my van, I need help," was what the operator first heard as she took the call. The operator on the line repeatedly started to ask Kyle where he was, but Kyle could not hear the operator. Now it's unclear where Kyle's phone was. It may have been in his pocket, or it may have been farther away in the front seat of the van. Either way, Kyle had the wherewithal to use the voice-activated features on his phone in order to call 911. During the call, Kyle intelligently gave the dispatcher more details, yelling that he was at Seven Hills. As the call played on, Kyle could be heard yelling, "I'm in desperate need of help," as he kicked and struggled to free himself. The first call to dispatch would last around 3 minutes. At 3:21 p.m., the incident was broadcast as an unknown trouble run, and officers were dispatched. At 3:26 p.m., officers would arrive on scene to investigate. The police patrolled the area and tried to find the caller or someone in distress. They would drive around the area for about 10 minutes, and then they closed the incident at 3:37 p.m. and went back into service, with Kyle still trapped in his minivan. At 3:35 p.m., Kyle had called 911 again. This time he provided dispatch with more information, letting them know he was trapped inside his gold Honda Odyssey minivan in the parking lot of Seven Hills. He added that this is not a joke. Now, at this point in the story, you would think that dispatch has enough information to relay to the police where Kyle is. Kyle should then be found and taken to the hospital, where his parents would later pick him up. But that's not what happened at all, as this story is an example of complete failure by the system that is supposed to be there to protect each and every one of us. Now, for some reason, Kyle's second call to 911 was not relayed to the officers who were still on scene at the time. Tragically, once this call ended, no more came in from Kyle. From this point, hours would go by, and later that evening, a family member of Kyle's would finally locate him, still stuck in his van. Emergency services were called, and Kyle was found to have perished in the moments after his last call had been made. Now, I am certain that some of you have probably heard this story. It was widely talked about after it transpired, but after diving into it again and researching the story, I felt like I needed to cover it and shine a light once again on the tragedy. What happened to Kyle was 100% avoidable, so let's dive into what went so horribly wrong. So right off the bat, the location of Kyle. Why weren't the police able to pinpoint his location and get to the young man? Well, an article by the Cincinnati Enquirer shed a lot of light on this story. First things first, the 911 operator had the GPS location of Kyle's phone. A computer-aided dispatch report contained the latitude and longitude of where Kyle's cell phone was at the time of his first 911 call. The report indicated that Kyle may have been across the street at the thrift store parking lot. Ultimately, those coordinates were within feet of where Kyle Plush was trapped. 2 officers responded to the scene, and 11 minutes later they marked the call as complete. It's not known where exactly they looked, or if they even exited their vehicle. From what has been reported, it doesn't seem like the police or the dispatcher took the call overly serious. It's my personal belief that they most likely chalked the entire thing up to a kid messing around. I want to make it clear that that is my opinion, and I cannot prove that to be the case. Ultimately, if the coordinates had been related to the officers, or the officers had even asked for them, they would have at the very least made it to within 10 feet of Kyle's van. According to all reports, the 911 call audio was not clearly heard the first time around. Both dispatchers could have immediately listened to the playback of the call. If they had done so, they would have had a full picture of how serious the situation truly was. Also, at the time of the incident, the fire department had a new GPS tracking system installed in all their vehicles. If the fire department had been called to the scene, the GPS coordinates of Kyle's phone would have brought them right to his minivan. The police did not have this system within their vehicles at the time, but this is something that city officials have stated will be rectified in the near future. To add to all the mistakes made on that tragic day, Kyle's second phone call was not handled and reported correctly. A different dispatcher had taken Kyle's second phone call, and for some reason, she did not report it to the police that were still on scene looking for the young man. Why this information was never handled correctly is still not clear. Ultimately, mistakes continued to pile up in the handling of Kyle's 911 call. The issue snowballed, and a young man lost his life in one of the most horrifying ways imaginable. To be stuck, pinned in the back of your van, with people probably walking near feet away at times. To then have the courage to still get 2 calls out to 911, as every breath you take becomes more and more difficult. Kyle's situation should have been one where we talked about how crazy it was that he survived that ordeal. But instead, a family had to bury their loved one due to incompetency and shortcomings every step of the way by the system that ultimately should have saved his life. My condolences go out to Kyle Plush and all of his family and friends. Elizabeth Isherwood was a 60-year-old woman that lived in Wolverhampton. Wolverhampton is a city and metropolitan borough in the West Midlands, England. It is located roughly 12 miles or 19 kilometers northwest of Birmingham. The city's population sits at around 263,000 residents. Elizabeth, or Mary as her family and friends called her, had spent most of her life working as a police officer. It's been said that she was beloved by everyone that ever came into contact with her. It was September of 2017, and Mary had made plans to travel and stay at the MacDonald Plush Talgarth Resort. Mary and her ex-husband, who had remained friends following their divorce, had owned a timeshare at the complex. In early 2017, they made the decision to sell their timeshare. When they did, the resort gave them each vouchers for one final stay. Mary was excited with the prospect of getting away for a little vacation. The Plush Talgarth Resort is situated in Pinal. Pinal is a village and community on the A493 road that runs through southern Gwynedd, Wales. The village is located on the north bank of the River Dyfi, near Machynlleth, and within the Snowdonian National Park. Mary would arrive at the resort on Saturday, September 23, 2017. It's been said that Mary would typically go to the resort with her friends, but for this particular trip, no one had been able to accompany her. Mary then checked in at the hotel and immediately went to her room. She dropped off her luggage and proceeded to head to the pool to take a swim. After going for a dip, Mary would make her way back to her room. She would eventually settle in for the night and head to bed. Now, it's not certain exactly how everything transpired within the story, but from what has been inferred, Mary woke in the early morning hours of Sunday, September 24th. She would then climb out of bed and make her way to the bathroom. It was dark in her room, and she ended up mistaking the airing cupboard for her bathroom. As she entered, the door would slowly close behind her, plunging her into complete darkness. She would turn around, grabbing for the doorknob in an effort to get out, but as she did, the handle on the door simply fell off, leaving her trapped in the confined space. Now, for those that don't know what an airing cupboard is, in British houses, an airing cupboard is a warm cupboard where you put clothes and other things that have been washed and partially dried to make sure they become completely dry. Now stuck in a confined space, Mary would become panicked rather quickly. She started banging on the walls in an effort to make enough noise, hoping someone's attention would be grabbed and they would come rescue her from the precarious position she was now in. She would continue to bang on the walls, but before long, she came to a realization that no one was coming for her. It's been said that residents staying at the resort did in fact hear some of the banging, but many chalked it up to work being done around the resort. Mary would then feel around in the dark, finding whatever items she thought might help her get out. One such item she grabbed was a copper pipe. She would end up breaking it off in an effort to use it to claw her way out. But what Mary didn't realize at the time was that this pipe was a water pipe. The moment she broke it off, water started pouring down on top of her, taking her terrible situation and escalating it into a dire one. She would try to get through the door, but had no luck breaking through it. She then focused her attention on a wall and began to chisel away with the pipe. But sadly, she was eventually met with brick, leaving her to turn her attention onto another wall. This next wall she would successfully break through, but when she did, she encountered what she thought was another dead end. If only she had realized at the time that it was nothing more than a picture frame that was in her way. If she had realized this, then she would have been able to free herself. It was at this point that Mary gave in a bit to her situation. She was exhausted, wet, cold, and she didn't know what else to do. She had used every last bit of energy she had on the walls, and with the water now drenching her, hypothermia was soon setting in. Mary's stay at the resort was scheduled for a week, and that's ultimately how long it would take before someone finally found her body. It's ultimately believed that she had survived within the cupboard until sometime Monday, September 25th. Following the tragedy, Mary's son would end up suing the resort. As of now, I don't have a conclusion to that lawsuit, but what I do know is that Mary's story is a perfect example of how fate can strike when you least expect it. My condolences go out to Elizabeth Mary Isherwood and all of her friends and family. This first story takes us to Bengaluru. Bengaluru, also called Bangalore, is the capital and largest city of the southern Indian state of Karnataka. It has a population of more than 8 million and a metropolitan population of around 15 million, making it India's third most populous city and fourth most populous urban agglomeration. Bengaluru is known for being the center of India's high-tech industry. The city is also known for its many parks and bustling nightlife. It was Monday, March 25th, 2024. a 24-year-old resident of Bengaluru named Yogesh made the decision to head over to Bengaluru's Sampangali area to visit a friend of his named Murali. Murali at the time was at work at the CNS Bike Service Center. Yogesh figured it was as good of a time as ever to take his two-wheeler over and have his friend Murali wash it at the service center. From all reports, Murali washed Yogesh's bike as the friends chatted it up. Following the cleaning of the bike, Murali took the electric blow dryer that was meant for the vehicles and started to playfully use it on his friend, Yogesh. He would first use it on his friend's face, and then proceed to use it on his back as Yogesh tried to turn away from him. Now, it's not entirely clear how things escalated the way that they did, but from what's been reported, at some point, Murali used the air blower near Yogesh's backside. It didn't take long for things to go from playful to full-blown horrifying, as the warm air that was being pumped out of the blow dryer entered Yogesh's rectum and began to fill up the space inside. This caused Yogesh's abdomen to expand rapidly, and he soon collapsed to the ground. After collapsing to the ground, Murali proceeded to pick his friend up, and he immediately rushed him to a nearby hospital. At the hospital, doctors were able to determine that due to the high pressure of the blow dryer, massive damage had been done to Yogesh's intestines. Doctors stated Yogesh needed an emergency operation if he wanted to survive, and he was immediately taken to a surgery suite for the procedure. Following the operation, Yogesh was placed in intensive care and continued to fight for his life for the next couple days. But on Wednesday, March 27th, Yogesh's body finally gave out. It appeared his body failed to respond to the surgery and treatment, and he would pass away at only 24 years of age. Following the tragic event, a case was filed at the Sampangali police station under Section 304, culpable homicide, of the Indian Penal Code. From all reports, police would end up arresting Murali while they await for the post-mortem reports to know exactly how Yogesh's organs became damaged. A bizarre and horrible way for anyone to leave this world. My thoughts go out to Yogesh and all of his family and friends. This next story takes place in San Jose, and not San Jose, California, but San Jose in the Philippines. San Jose is a first-class municipality in the province of Occidental Mindoro, Philippines. It has a population of around 153,267. San Jose has the province's largest commercial port and airport, as well as the most banking, business, dining, and commercial establishments in Occidental Mindoro, and has become a center of trade in the Mimaropa region. This story in particular takes place in a small village in the region known as Madugang Village. It was October 26, 2020, and Lieutenant Christian Bollock, the chief of the San Jose Police Force, was involved in a raid within Madugang Village. That raid was performed to break up an illegal cockfighting ring. Cockfighting, locally termed sabong, remains a popular pastime all throughout the Philippines. Both illegal and legal cockfights occur, and legal cockfights are held in sanctioned cockpits every week, whereas illegal ones, called tupada or tigbakay, are held in secluded cockpits where authorities struggle to locate and subsequently raid them. Now, if you don't know what cockfighting is, it involves two gamecocks set up to fight each other. Such birds often have their legs fitted with metal spurs or razors. The fight will typically end once one of the animals is critically injured or has their life completely extinguished. As the raid unfolded, Lieutenant Christian Bollock and his team began making arrests and rounding up the numerous birds. One of the particular birds Lieutenant Bollock picked up had an extremely sharp razor, otherwise known as a gaff. As he scooped the bird up, the razor sliced deeply into one of Lieutenant Bollock's legs. He immediately winced in pain as he dropped to the ground and his pants started to soak with blood. Other officers on scene attempted to slow the blood loss by tying a cloth tightly around Bollock's leg, but reports have stated that they believe they tied off his leg in the wrong area. As Lieutenant Bollock continued to lose blood, they would soon rush him from the scene. He would be taken to a nearby hospital, but it was too late. As it was ultimately determined, the bird had caught Lieutenant Bollock's leg, and in doing so, it sliced straight through his femoral artery. The femoral artery is a large blood vessel that provides oxygenated blood to lower extremity structures. You have one femoral artery in each leg, so each artery is responsible for carrying blood to that side of the body. If the artery is cut, the blood loss can be absolutely catastrophic, sometimes in mere minutes. Following the raid, 3 farmers who had been taking part in the illegal fights were arrested, and 3 others were being sought out by the police. Authorities would also seize 7 roosters, a pair of gaffs, and 550 pesos, about $10 in cash. The Northern Samar Police Provincial Chief Arnel Lapud would express his sincere sorrow over Bollock's passing following the raid. He was quoted as saying, "I have a heavy heart as we have lost a brother who sacrificed his own life in the name of service." The Philippine National Police grieves the untimely death of Lieutenant Bollock and extends its deepest sympathy to his family and relatives. My deepest condolences also go out to Lieutenant Bollock's friends and family. His life was ultimately lost in the most senseless and tragic way. I tell his story so that he may be remembered for the service he gave to the people of the Philippines. Michael A. Kosanovich, age 21, was born in New Brunswick. New Brunswick is a city in Middlesex County in the U.S. state of New Jersey. The city is both a college town, the home of Rutgers University, the state's largest university, and a commuter town for residents commuting to New York City within the New York metropolitan area. The city is located on the southern banks of the Raritan River in the heart of the Raritan Valley region. Michael would grow up and eventually graduate from Saraville War Memorial High School. Saraville War Memorial High School is a 4-year public high school located in the Parlin section of Saraville in Middlesex County, New Jersey. As a young man in his early 20s, Michael loved skateboarding and riding ATVs and dirt bikes. He absolutely loved getting his hands dirty and having a good time riding with his friends. Michael also loved traveling into New York City to spend time and do what any 21-year-old his age would be looking to do in the big, sprawling city. It was around 9:45 p.m. on Friday, December 6, 2019, in South Jamaica, Queens, New York. According to reports, Michael Kosanovich was interested in potentially purchasing a Lexus IS 300 luxury sedan. So as he was walking down a street in Queens, he happened to spot a red and gray colored model of the vehicle. Being that it was a car he was very interested in one day owning, he went up to both vehicles to take a look at them. As he was inspecting the cars, he would eventually step between the 2 vehicles. To give you the full picture, the gray Lexus was parked directly behind the red Lexus, leaving just enough space between the front of the one car and the trunk of the other. As Michael continued inspecting the trunk on the red Lexus, tragedy would strike. According to police reports, the gray Lexus would out of nowhere lurch forward. As it did, it pinned 21-year-old Michael between the 2 vehicles. Numerous bystanders in the area would see the scene unfold, and many tried to rush to Michael's aid. They would manage to push the gray Lexus backwards in order to free Michael, but this was only a temporary reprieve. Before anyone could get Michael out of the way, the gray Lexus would once again lurch forward, crushing Michael between the 2 vehicles. Those now involved in the tragic set of events would work tirelessly to free Michael a second time. This time would end up being successful, and an ambulance was soon called to the scene. Michael would be rushed to the Jamaica hospital, where doctors worked tirelessly to try and help save the young man's life. But sadly, just one day later, Michael's body would finally give out. The damage was simply far too severe, and Michael would succumb to the numerous internal injuries he had suffered. So the question ultimately becomes, what caused the car to lurch forward suddenly like it did? Well, according to police reports, the owner of the vehicle in question accidentally started the car via a remote control. Now, in the case of someone using a remote to start a vehicle, a remote should not be able to work unless the vehicle itself is in park. I also read via the Fox News reporting of this incident that a Lexus spokesperson did come out and ultimately make a statement about the incident. That person stated that the remote start feature was not offered on their 2002 vehicles. With that said, it ultimately means that the car starter that was installed on this 2002 gray Lexus IS 300 had to be one that was purchased and added after the initial purchase of the vehicle. Now, I wish I could say that I have clear answers as to exactly what went wrong to cause this tragic story to unfold, but that was all the information I was able to find. Michael Kosinovich was only 21 years old, and he had so much life left ahead of him, but tragically, it was cut far too short. My condolences go out to Michael Kosinovich and all of his friends and family. Yulia Sharko is a 21-year-old account manager who lived in the village of Staro Selo, Belarus. To give you an idea of where Belarus is, Belarus, officially the Republic of Belarus, is a landlocked country located in Eastern Europe. It is bordered by Russia to the east and northeast, Ukraine to the south, Poland to the west, and Lithuania and Latvia to the northwest. It was August 31st, 2019, and Yulia Sharko was reportedly celebrating her 21st birthday with friends. Following a day out, Yulia would return to her home around 4:30 p.m. At the time, the mother of two had her 2-year-old daughter with her in the car, while her 4-year-old was at home with her husband, Artur. Yulia parked her BMW E34 in the driveway of her home and stepped out of the vehicle. Now, it's unclear where her daughter was in the car at the time, but for some reason, Yulia went around to the passenger side front window of the car. The window of the car was reportedly around halfway down at the time. From there, Yulia leaned over and reached inside the window in order to grab her 2-year-old and remove her from the car. As she began removing her daughter, pure tragedy would strike. The 2-year-old would accidentally hit the automatic window switch, causing the window to close while Yulia's head was still inside the car. The window would quickly close on her neck, acting like a garrote. The mother would begin panicking frantically as she tried her best to free herself. Her arms were stuck outside the window, and she attempted to pull the window back down, but it wouldn't budge. It wouldn't be long before Yulia blacked out, completely losing consciousness with her daughter still in the car. Now, it's unclear how long Yulia was trapped in the window of her car, but sometime later, her husband would come out to see his wife trapped and clearly in a horrifying predicament. Artur desperately did all he could to break the jammed window, and soon he had his wife free from the car's clutches. He carried her lifeless body away from the car and immediately called for emergency services. Yulia was soon rushed to the nearby Brest Regional Hospital, where doctors immediately did all they could to save the young mother of two. Yulia would put up a fight for numerous days, but tragically, she never regained consciousness. She would pass away on September 8, 2019. She ultimately suffered from clamped arteries, which led to a lack of oxygen to the brain. This caused massive amounts of brain damage, and by the time she was freed from the car, it was most likely too late for her. Ultimately, Yulia's story is one of pure tragedy. I hope in sharing it, it leads to more people being aware of the possibly dangerous scenarios they put themselves in. My sincerest condolences go out to Yulia Sharko, her husband, her family, and the 2 young lives she heartbreakingly left behind. This first story displays a tragic set of circumstance. It just goes to show how fragile life is, as none of us are immune to fate's grip coming down on us at any moment. We as humans are not as invincible as we sometimes think we are. Around 1:49 a.m. on August 4th of 2021, Officer John Nunez with the North Bergen Police Department pulled over a 2022 Kia Stinger. For context, North Bergen is a township located in the northern part of Hudson County in the U.S. state of New Jersey. And a Kia Stinger is a sports sedan that has between 300 to 368 horsepower and can reach a top speed of up to 167 miles per hour. As John Nunez pulled the car over, he would speak with the driver and his passenger. The couple was identified as 24-year-old Luis Fernando Chavalos and 27-year-old Alexis Rodriguez. As the officer spoke with the couple, Alexis would tell the officer that they were out on their first date. She tried to take blame for the reckless driving, as she stated she was in a rush to get home. Officer Nunez would reassure Alexis that no, this was not her fault. From there, he would issue Luis 3 citations, one of reckless driving, one for failure to observe a flashing traffic signal, and one for restrictions on a provisional license. Nunez would then remind the couple that he could also get them for speeding at close to 100 miles per hour, but that he was trying to give them a break by only writing up the 3 citations. He then reminded Luis to drive responsibly as to avoid a fatal accident. At 2:02 a.m., the traffic stop ended, and Luis and Alexis would drive away.
You can shut the car off and give me your license, registration, and insurance. I'll let you know everything's being audio video recorded, right? Yeah. The reason for this...
The thing is, the car is new, so I don't really have registration.
You have the temporary one that they give you with the template.
Yeah, and
so that's your registration, right?
Yeah.
The reason for the yours... I know. That's why I stopped them. Ma'am, that's why I stopped them. Have a nice night, okay? Yeah, that's what I'm stopping you for. Reckless driving, careless driving, speeding, and the light you ran, okay? You were doing at least 100 on Kennedy Boulevard. All right, man? You almost struck my car because I was making a right turn. All right? You don't have a driver's license?
I do. I mean, I have that for now. I'm still waiting for the new one to come in.
Okay, but do you have a driver's license?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, man. Here's your documents.
I'm sorry, we're on a first date, man.
That's fine, but
Sorry.
almost killing each other is not the way to start on a first date.
Because it just got really carried away. Sorry.
I know.
It's my fault. It's really my fault. I swear.
It's not your fault, because if
No,
he gets into
it
an
is.
accident, it's his fault.
No, it's my fault.
Listen,
'cause I was
you're getting
really
3
good
tickets.
at
I could have gave you a
it.
lot more, okay? You're not even supposed to be driving at this time because you have a provisional license.
Oh my God.
So you're getting reckless. I didn't give you speeding. I'm giving you that break, all right? You got reckless, the traffic light that you ran, and for driving after hours. All right, man? Get home safe.
11 minutes later, at 2:13 a.m., an officer named Jessica Toro transmitted over the police radio that a motor vehicle accident involving a tractor-trailer had just occurred. Officer John Nunez would soon arrive on scene.
Yes, I was.
Yo, this is the same kid. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
As he approached the accident site, he realized the vehicle that was involved was the same vehicle he had just pulled over literally minutes ago. As he approached the vehicle, the couple was motionless inside. He would soon radio in that a crash team was needed on site for a fatal accident. At 2:26 a.m., a doctor on scene would pronounce the couple deceased, and efforts would soon be made to notify their next of kin. An unbelievably tragic scene that could have and should have been avoided. Jorge Torres Jr. was a 42-year-old man that lived in Winter Park, Florida. Winter Park is a city in Orange County, Florida, located near Orlando. The city has a population of around 29,795 people. Over the years, Jorge Torres had been arrested multiple times for alleged instances of domestic violence against his girlfriend, Sarah Boone. Sarah Boone was also 42 years old, and there's also reports that she too was arrested once for alleged battery by strangulation against Jorge Torres. Ultimately, Sarah and Jorge are the only ones who truly know what was going on within their relationship. But it was very clear that the couple was volatile. Like oil and water, the two didn't seem to mix well with one another. To add to the drama of their relationship, Sarah would bail Jorge out each of the 4 times Jorge was arrested for battery against her. That now leads us up to February 24th of 2020. From all reports, the couple was playing a game of hide and seek when things took a dramatically dark turn. At some point during the game of hide and seek, Jorge Torres would climb inside of a suitcase. Sarah Boone, with no hesitation, would then zip the suitcase closed with Jorge trapped inside. While trapped inside the suitcase, Sarah would make this chilling video.
For everything you've done to me.
Cellar.
For everything you've done to me.
Cellar.
Stupid.
Cellar.
Following the video, Sarah Boone would head upstairs and go to bed, leaving Jorge by himself, seemingly trapped within the suitcase. On February 25th, 2020, Sarah Boone would place a 911 call and inform the police that Jorge Torres was no longer alive. During subsequent interrogations, Sarah would state that she had drank a single bottle of wine prior to playing hide and seek. She claimed that she thought it would be funny to put Jorge in the suitcase, and according to her, they were both laughing about it. Now, it's never been clear if Jorge got into the suitcase willingly. Since Sarah is the only person left alive who was there when everything transpired, I don't think we'll ever have a full picture of exactly how everything unfolded. According to Sarah Boone, she went upstairs and accidentally fell asleep. Finding her story hard to believe, the police would ask for Sarah's phone, and that is when the police discovered the horrifying videos. According to Sarah, she didn't even remember taking them, and no effort was made on her behalf to delete said videos. Following these revelations, Sarah Boone would soon be charged with second-degree murder. Her trial is currently scheduled for May 13th, 2024. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. If you enjoy the content, please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps the channel continue to grow. Also, you can check the description box below and find the link to my merch store. Tons of awesome designs, and the proceeds help fund the channel. For those of you that are interested, I have a Cellar Dwellers membership tier for the channel. It's $2.99 a month and comes with some pretty cool perks, so if that interests you, then please go check it out. I also have that linked in the description box below. If you'd like to submit a real-life scary story that you would like featured on an episode on the channel, please do so using the email linked in the description box below. As always, I do all the research, writing, recording, and editing for the channel myself, so anything that you do to support the channel is greatly appreciated. Until next time, I will see you all again as we head back into the cellar.